Is this what's best for my community, or is this what's best for my collaboration? And anytime somebody reaches out to you, you can say, is this somebody from my community, or is this somebody looking to collaborate? Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. I hope you enjoyed the latest episode. It was episode number 28, 5 more mistakes that podcasters are making. Today, for episode number 29, not all listeners are listeners. So first of all, you're going to say, what does that mean? Before we get into it, just a heads up, a little housekeeping. I had COVID last week, so I am definitely experiencing some brain fog. Do not mind me if I trail off. This is not going to be a super long episode because this is very much a deeper understanding episode with the hope that this will break something free for you, or at least allow you to try things in a different way, or really understand at a deeper level. That's really what this episode is. So not all listeners are listeners. When Alan and I were a couple years in, and we were really starting to build the community, and we were starting to get different opportunities, and things seemed to be working, I remember Alan and I had this conversation because we had a lot of people that were trying to network with us, but they weren't the type of people that listen to our podcast, right? They were people who were successful in their own way. Maybe they had a podcast, maybe they wanted to start a podcast, maybe they were trying to figure out how to grow a community, but they weren't the people who would listen to our show, right? So we have talked about this many times. The importance of understanding who your target audience is. These people just weren't our target audience. And I kept thinking, like, why do they want to connect with us? They're not connecting with us because they like the content of the podcast. Why are they connecting with us? And I came up with something that I have since changed, but this is where it started. There's two types of members when it comes to your following. You have listeners and you have lurkers. And then I changed the lurkers to longers, and I'll explain why. Lurkers does not sound super positive. You have your listeners. You have people who, they don't listen to you because of your results. They listen to you because of your message. They listen to you because they are the type of people that your content is for. Longers are people who long for the results that you have, and they want to figure out how you did it. So we can say listeners versus longers, or we can say community versus collaborators. Because in a way, that's kind of what's happening. You're building a community, and then you're also building a potential audience of collaborators who are watching what you do and saying, wow, how is that person doing that? I want to get to know them so I can figure out the secrets. So if you think of it in this way, and this is an important thing for all podcasters to understand, a lot of us, when we start the podcast, we're starting it for the community. We're starting it for me, I'm starting this for podcasters. Now, something very interesting can happen when you're 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years in, where you start getting opportunities from collaborators, and then you forget about the community. So just as an example, one of the biggest revenue drivers at our other business, Next Level University, is Next Level Podcast Solutions. So it's the company our production company, that we produce 27 other podcasts right now. Now, that's great, and that makes us money, and that's really good for the business. But if we do not continue to serve the community, then we're not going to win in the long run. Right now, we're serving a lot of collaborators who come to me, right? Or maybe they listen to the show and they say, wow, how did you guys do what you have today? How did you create what you have today? But these people don't listen to the show. Most of my clients do not listen to the podcast. They come to us because they have a podcast and they want to win. So I want to put this episode out there for that simple reason that not everybody who's interested in your podcast is interested in your podcast for the same reasons. Some people are going to be interested in your podcast because they're going to say, how did you do it? Here's another part of this. In a way, you can really only have one intention. So I know a lot of people who, when they're thinking about having guests on their show, they might not be thinking about the community. They might be thinking about the opportunity to collaborate. And that's a dangerous game. And the reason it's dangerous is because if you're only having somebody on because you want the opportunity to collaborate with them, you might be leaving your community behind. So the question that I would pose to you, or the question that I would give to you to pose to yourself before you do anything, is this what's best for my community, or is this what's best for my collaboration? And anytime somebody reaches out to you, you can say, is this somebody from my community, or is this somebody looking to collaborate? Really think about it. I get pitched all the time on LinkedIn from collaborators. It's not from the community. The community, when they reach out, they're grateful and they say, hey, thank you for doing this, or this was what I learned in this episode. Where the collaborators are saying, hey, these people have some level of success. Let me see if I can be a part of it. So some people want to be part of the community. Other people want to be part of the success. I wish, in retrospect, and this is the big reason I wanted to do this episode, in retrospect, I wish I didn't spend as much time with collaborators, because it's just, there's not a lot there. I mean, can you learn? Of course you can, but you're better off serving your community and focusing on the results that you want to create within your community.
Hi there. This is Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and I am the host of the Business of Happiness podcast, which would not be in existence were it not for the one and only incredible Kevin Palmieri. Seriously, I am so indebted to Kevin for the service that he provides. Every week he meets with me. He has been coaching me on how to initiate and launch this podcast. He helped me put it together with his great expertise, and every week his whole team works tirelessly to get these podcasts uploaded to Buzzsprout and to deliver my content to my audience. I am so grateful. I couldn't say enough about him. In fact, we've been working together so well. I've seen so much wonderful input from my listeners and asking me for more, that in just a few weeks, we're going to be doubling the number of podcasts we produce per week. So this trajectory is just flying, and I'm really enjoying the whole process. So I couldn't say enough about him. Please, if this is something you're considering, I highly recommend him. And reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about our experience. Good luck. Bye-bye.
There's going to be a lot of people who are interested in figuring out how you did it, whatever that means, whatever you are successful at, quote unquote, at your point in the journey. But it's probably not the best use of your time. And I really wish I understood this earlier. So ask yourself that. Is this a community member, or is this a potential collaborator? And it's very interesting, right? I'll go on a lot of podcasts, and some people become members of the community. They say, you know what, I'm going to check out your podcast, or I checked out your podcast before this interview and I really enjoy it. I'm going to stick around. Awesome. Now they're a member of the community. But I also have people who, and this is interesting, will get to the end of the interview and they'll say, hey, what can I do for you? And some people are genuine with that, and I appreciate that very much. Other people, they want to talk shop, and they want to say, hey, what can we do for each other? Who can I introduce you to? What services can I provide you? What services can you provide me? Again, there's nothing against that. That's just not how I want to play. That's just not how I want to grow the business. That's just not how I want to do it. I'm not looking to collaborate. I'm looking to build the community. Now, if somebody reaches out and says, here's a very aligned offering, I have a stage, I'd love to have you speak, cool. I'm cool there. My collaboration is focused on value. That's really what I want to do. I don't want to collaborate to skip steps. I don't want that. I'm not into networking for that reason. That's just not the way, it's not the way I want to do it. What you'll notice usually, and this is from our experience, is the community is where you want to live. The collaborators are the people who are building relationships to get ahead. And if that's you, cool, do that. So maybe lean more into the collaboration. Again, that's just not my personal choice. That's not the way I want to do it. And I'm very grateful we've done it the way we have. If you put the community first and really lean into that, you're going to win. If you also understand that not everybody that quote unquote listens, not everybody that follows, not everybody that pours into you is necessarily a listener. Some people are going to be longers. I think that's an important understanding. So really think about that. Anytime you're posting on social media, you'll see. This is a telltale sign. if you say you post 9 posts on social media and it's just like podcast content, life content, whatever, podcast content, life content, boom. Your 10th post is today I crossed the 5,000 download, what's the word I'm looking for? 5,000 download. I can't think of the word. That's my achievement, right? Today, this is my achievement. I've crossed the 5,000 download threshold. You might have certain people that never, ever, 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 ever like your stuff that will like your stuff. Now, you're probably going to have that anyway, because a lot of people are going to say, wow, that's awesome. Good for that person. But I'm willing to bet if you go through the people who like it, there is a potential that you're going to see somebody who is kind of a longer. They're kind of somebody that sees that and likes it because they want to collaborate. Another even deeper layer to this. Sometimes this will happen where I will put a post up and let's do this. When I got married in Colorado and I put a post up, there were people who never comment on anything that commented on it because it looked good for them to comment on it. They weren't doing it because they're in the community and they watch what I post and they like it. That's not why they did it. They did it because it positioned them in a different position. And it was valuable enough for them to say, you know what? I'm going to do this because it makes me look a certain way. And again, that's not necessarily negative. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just want you to understand the psychology behind people's decisions so you just don't get taken advantage of or you don't have false expectations. So really keep a lookout for that. That is something I realized very quickly, when we would have a certain guest, people who never, ever, ever cared about the podcast or never listened or never came to anything we did would reach out to me and start asking questions. And they'd want to get close. Interesting. Why? Because they want to know how we did it. Again, nothing wrong with that. I talk often about the power of mentors. I love it. I have nothing against that. But I want to make sure that you actually know what you're getting into before you set up a call or whatever it may be. So that is the goal. That is the point of today's episode. Again, it's going to be a shorter one. I'm just about done. The brain fog is real and it's very, very humbling, honestly. Next week, I have had this question a lot, and I've seen a lot of people just really get into trouble with this, honestly. Next week for episode number 30, should you join a podcast group? There's a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of groups where you can promote your podcast. There's a lot of like agency style things where you get into this group and you promote each other and all this stuff. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about podcast groups and that sort of thing, that affiliate stuff. Is that right for you? Should you do it? Is it a waste of time? That will be episode number 30. As always, if you want to book a free call, I just saw another couple free calls come through this week, I think. Again, I'm not going to sell you anything. I just want to add value and see what I can do in terms of raising your awareness for your ultimate podcast goals. The link for my free call will be in the show notes below, and I am always happy to answer any questions. Even if you don't want to do a call, please just send me a DM at NeverQuitKid. You can also send me an email. I'll make sure my email is in the show notes as well. So it doesn't have to be a call. I don't want you to think, well, Kev wants me to get on the phone or on Zoom because that way he can sell me. If that's your fear, just send me to whatever questions you have on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, or email, whatever is easiest for you. So tune in next week. We're going to talk about podcast Facebook groups, podcast affiliate groups, whatever, networking groups, whatever you want to call it. We will talk about that next week. And as always, I appreciate you all. Next week's going to be episode 30, which is great. I'm excited. It has been going by very, very fast. As always, keep on podcasting, keep on crushing it, and I will talk to you all next week.